welcome to Pollute Brain TV. Today we're talking about Blaze, the Blaze Foley movie directed by Ethan Hawke. Yeah! Yeah!
Maximum howdy. Maximum howdy. Maximum howdy.
Maximum howdy.
Well, howdy, y'all. We're talking about what movies we're excited for Oscar season today. Guys, it's Oscar season. We're getting there.
Oh, popular film.
Hell yeah. Wait.
No more. No more. It's gone.
This is a day of celebration.
It's true.
But first, we're talking about Blaze, the new Ethan Hawke movie. Ethan Hawke directed, starring Ben Dickey. And it's about Blaze Foley. And I think you guys might not be as familiar with Blaze Foley as I am.
Nope.
Because Blaze Foley was a country artist in Austin around like the 1980s, and he's very much an underground figure. And he was an amazing songwriter, really a poet, but he just was not recognized in his time for that. And he was loved by Townes Van Zandt and people like Lucinda Williams, and he's been covered by John Prine and Merle Haggard, but it's really only recently that he started to get a little bit of recognition for how great of a songwriter he was. And so Ethan Hawke has made a new movie about him, and as I said, it stars Ben Dickey as Blaze Foley, and Charlie Sexton as Townes Van Zandt. And yeah, what are some first reactions, I guess?
I am very surprised. Well, I'm not surprised that I didn't know Blaze Foley, but it's so cool to finally see like somebody who was a part of a tight-knit circle, like for a lot of very influential artists. And this is like very much, this whole movie just feels like the most lovingly made movie. Like everything is like very much like coming from a place of love for this artist, like Blaze Foley.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of biopics, the genre, and then I'm also not the biggest fan of country music.
Mm-hmm.
So to see it kind of blend together, I was not really like super, interested in it before going in. But I got kind of a biopic that is not like any others in the genre, and I was kind of surprised by it, by the structure of it, by kind of the formula it kind of runs by.
And I want to talk about that because I think we all have kind of a disdain for biopics in general, especially music biopics, which, I mean, going on to the topic that we're going to talk about later, there's that fucking Freddie Mercury biopic that's coming out.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Bohemian Rhapsody. That just looks like dog shit to me. I don't know how anybody's excited for that.
Yeah.
But this does not feel like a biopic. It does not feel like most biopics, at least. It doesn't have the same kind of, that element of hero worship, that element of predictability. It doesn't follow those same plot points, because most biopics do follow a very strict line. It's the rise and maybe the fall.
Yeah.
But this one's different. It has a very different structure. And I guess let's talk about the structure. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I was listening to an interview with Ethan Hawke on this podcast, and he kind of mentioned the formula that it runs by a little bit, and kind of the unique structure of it, and it kind of brings about kind of themes of like life and death and kind of full circle almost, but also speaking of just the structure, he kind of like each kind of like past, present, and future like timeline that the movie runs by a little bit, it kind of like each it kind of hits one another. That's what he mentioned in the genre, like each kind of particular like moment in time that the story runs by, each of them kind of like hit each other. It kind of cuts back to Townes Van Zandt, and then also it cuts back to Ben Dickey playing Blaze Foley, and then also Aaliyah Shawkat, who's playing
Sybil Rosen.
Yeah.
And Sybil Rosen, Blaze Foley's ex-wife, actually co-wrote this movie, and it's based on a memoir of hers.
And she's actually in the movie.
That's right.
Yeah.
She plays this movie's Sybil Rosen's mother. And for people that haven't seen the movie, let's explain that the structure of this movie is, it's not flashbacks, but it does jump around in time.
There are three kind of main areas of this film, time zones that this film takes place in. There's like a posthumous kind of interview at like a radio show, I believe, talking about Blaze Foley and
talking
his
to
life.
Ethan Hawke.
Talking to, was that really who it was?
Yeah.
The radio host.
Okay. And then there's also a actual live recording at a place in Texas called the Outhouse.
Right.
Which is pretty much, and those are all interlaced with like actual vignettes of
Mhm.
Blaze's life and things like that. So
And,
and it works together. Like all that stuff works really like actually well. I heard
Yeah.
a lot of people just talking about that like liquid narrative as like
Mhm.
not a good thing, but like I think hear me out. It's like a nice soup, you know.
Yeah.
You put the soup down, put the ingredients in, and sometimes it doesn't work, but this time it works.
This time it works.
I think it works really well.
Yeah.
Like I especially I talk about a lot in my review the first half of the movie.
Mhm.
And the first half of the movie works so well for me, and it really, really connected with me in a way that
Yeah.
I don't know if a movie has this year yet.
Mhm.
The way that it works for the first half, it's very dreamlike, and it goes very fluidly between timelines. Like you said, there's the interview with Townes Van Zandt, which is kind of the framing device.
Mhm.
There is the Live at the Outhouse album, which in this movie takes place the day before he dies. In real life, it was about a month before.
Okay.
But that's a real album. You can go listen to it. It's a really great album. But then there's the past, and there is, for much of the first half, that past is Blaze and Sybil, played by Aaliyah Shawkat, as you said, in kind of a treehouse. They're living in Georgia in this old, decrepit house that they're allowed to stay in for free. And it's a love story, and that's really what it is. And so I'll say now that at the screening we went to, we got to be there for a Q&A with Ethan Hawke and Ben Dickey and Charlie Sexton
Yeah.
afterwards. And they talk a lot about how they really did approach this movie more as a love story than a biopic.
Mhm.
And I think that works for it.
Yeah,
Like that
it does,
first half, the way that it's edited, the way that it all flows together is so dreamlike and so wonderfully naturalistic that
Yeah.
I just adored it.
Yeah, it brings a little more engagement to the people who don't really or not really familiar, with the Blaze Foley story as of as me, and I'm not sure how invested you were beforehand.
I had no idea.
You had no idea. Okay. But yeah, the kind of the love story added a little bit of humanity to it almost, kind of relatability a little bit, where the viewer could almost relate to it a little bit. And to touch on the dreamlike kind of feel throughout the entire film, I thought that was a big benefit of kind of like the timeline of how it went, how kind of everything, like you said, liquid kind of narrative a little bit. Yeah, that was a big benefit of the film for me. My takeaway.
Well, and I think that there's something to be said for like not trying to actually capture this
Yeah.
person. You know what I mean? Being like, ooh, let's try to structure this out to be like this person, but like actually having like a narrative that is focused somewhere else. And in realizing that you're not going to actually capture the truth,
it's more of a
you know?
mood piece a little bit
yeah.
on kind of like life and like music and love.
And I'm
kind
sure
of,
most of the people that acted in this, and definitely Ethan Hawke, like love his music.
Yeah.
And they're letting that kind of. I feel like they let the vibe of the music and some of the testimonies
Yeah.
from other people direct where the mood is going, more than like
Absolutely.
trying to capture Blaze in reality.
Mhm.
And we can talk about the music for sure because it's a soundtrack. The songs are recreated by the actors.
Well, it's entirely EDM, which I think is so cool.
Yeah.
You have Deadmau5, you have Skrillex.
It's a diversion. It's not what you'd expect,
Yeah.
but it works.
Yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed the music from an outsider perspective, from not really.
And you're not a
knowing
country fan. Like,
Oh.
I mean, you don't know who Blaze Foley is. You didn't know who Blaze Foley
Yeah.
was, but you are a country fan.
Yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure.
I like older country. Like I know we watched this recently, but Nashville.
Right.
Like that older kind of country, I really like, and then obviously folk, which is a lot different. But no, like kind of, I think country's gotten a lot worse. Obviously as times have gone on. But no, I really enjoyed. I really liked the music. I thought it fit well with all the characters a little bit, all of like the setting and stuff especially. And that
I mean, in many scenes, it's not really. It's more of a mood piece than anything else.
Yeah.
You're not getting very many long scenes of people singing.
Mhm.
It's very much in the background on a lot of them.
Yeah, I appreciated that a lot because
Oh,
I'm used
yeah.
to a lot of films like having a moment that really teeters off from the thing to be like, this he's performing that song.
Especially when he was performing there in the outhouse, where
Right.
where it would focus on, let's say, the bartender who would like go out for a smoke or something.
Right.
I really liked that approach to it a little bit to the music scenes. I thought it kind of
Yeah.
a little more grounded approach a little bit. So no, I really like that part
Oh,
too.
absolutely. It's really, really well done in the way that he uses the music.
Yeah, but
Well,
I think
his
you're right on
songs like will start like being like what's the word for it? Dysgenic? What is it?
Yeah.
Like diegetic?
Yeah,
Diegetic.
yeah.
It'll start diegetic, so it'll be him playing, but
Yeah.
they'll seep through other parts. Like the song will be.
Yeah.
Well, that
You
comes
know.
back to the structure, or
Yeah.
that it'll jump around using the song as a reference point for
Yeah.
the mood of what it's showing.
that. Yeah.
And that's really, really well done.
Mhm.
I think one of my favorite my favorite sequence in this movie is a sequence in which they're using the song "Big Cheeseburgers and Good French Fries," and it's over a wedding sequence.
Yeah.
You get one. You get a shot that I think has been in a lot of press material, where it's the one very different shot in this movie.
Yeah.
And it's a
It's the one
little
that stands
hokey,
alone
but
from
yeah.
everything,
It's a little hokey, but in the moment it works really well.
Yeah. So I know in the Q&A that we watched after this, when Ethan Hawke, Ben Dickey, and Charlie Sexton came out on stage, when someone in the crowd I think mentioned the wedding shot when so it's this very dreamlike kind of shot where but also very joyous, a little bit very cheerful, very happy. And
it's a slow motion shot.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
super slow motion shot.
Oh yeah, and they had to bring in. I think they had to get a new camera on set that would be able to shoot at that high of a frame rate.
Oh,
to where
yeah.
it's so it moves so slowly. It's like super slow motion, but it fits really well.
It does. And he talks a lot about the motivation behind a lot of what they do, and he talks about how it's like capturing a moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not the deepest explanation there could be, but it works well.
Yeah, it works
really
extremely well. Yeah.
I do want to talk about that Q&A because there were a lot of interesting things he brought up.
And Ethan Hawke's just such an interesting, guy to watch. Just what he while he's talking, he's just so every word that comes out of his mouth is just like I'm just like always like paying attention. It's just like
well, it's funny that you say that because the way he talked for me was, I don't know, I always hate listening to directors talk about their own work. I think they're really bad at explaining their own work.
Okay.
I remember I listened to an interview with Boots Riley recently about Sorry to Bother You. Just nonsensical. And I thought there's an element of nonsense to Ethan. Like,
really?
It was nonsensical, but it was also genius.
I couldn't listen to a fucking what is it, Jordan Peele talk about Get Out. I couldn't do it. Like I just couldn't.
I think it's interesting to see directors' approach to their own films almost.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's interesting to like at least see. So obviously sometimes I don't, everyone not really agrees with them on certain parts, But I just love the way Ethan Hawke just talks in general. It just seems like he's so invested. He puts a lot of care on like everything he's saying.
And you can tell he's bursting out with things to say.
Absolutely.
Like he has so much he wants to say, and it's real passion.
Oh yeah,
and,
especially on this film, which I believe is like a passion project almost.
Oh yeah. It's basically a project that they got to shoot between two bigger projects.
Absolutely.
But back to what I was saying about what he said. He talks about one of my favorite things he talked about in that Q&A was the kind of gap between when you're making a biopic and what the actual reality is, and how he was not preoccupied with reality when he was making this. As much as this movie is naturalistic and captures reality, he wasn't preoccupied with every detail being correct. Like there are many changes to reality, and I like that. I like that he talks about that. I like that he talks about how it's more trying to make something that feels authentic than actually realistic.
And he succeeds tremendously, I think.
He really does. Yeah. This is a very authentic movie, more than most biopics.
That might be my favorite part of the movie is just the way it feels, the way just it kind of felt to me, at least, the way I was feeling during it. And
Yeah, and the scenes that just like exude fun and like you can tell that the actors and like the characters are having fun are just so like it works. Like it pulls you into those moments. Like the scene where they're all tangoing and the record labels come in, they're like, you gotta get out of there, you gotta stop taking this like a joke, and they just kind of play it off. And like those moments just really they sold me in. Like they really pulled me in. And,
well, it's very improvisational.
Yeah, oh for sure.
You can tell Ethan Hawke really knows how to work with actors and lead them and just
I mean, he's an actor himself, so
exactly.
Yeah, it's like all the actors got comfortable with the situation in the room before they really started filming it and with everyone else. And I think that those movies you really tell when that happens. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's even more interesting because he's working with non-actors for the most part. Charlie Sexton is not an actor. He is a musician. He is part of Bob Dylan's backing band. He's worked with David Bowie, and then Ben Dickey, who plays Blaze Foley, also a musician, not an actor. But he does really, really well in this movie.
Yeah.
He gives a great performance and a very, very... It's very authentic to who Blaze Foley was, while also being very much authentic to who I think Ben Dickey is. Yeah. And that was the best part of the Q&A for me, was just listening to... He talked very briefly, but he's very didactic and just amazing.
And I know, obviously, there were some other actors in the movie that have been in other things, like Alia Shawkat, also... I don't know I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but
Shawkat.
Okay. And then the gentleman who I'm forgetting his name, the actor's name, but the one that was alongside Charlie Sexton in the
right. I also don't remember it, but that's
his name is going to be right here. on the screen.
Yes.
There we go.
But yeah, and that character, that's an invention too.
Yeah.
That character is not the harmonica player,
Yeah.
but it's a character that works very well for the movie because he
Yeah.
serves a very specific thematic
There,
purpose.
there's a great moment, and it's a moment where I love that they allude. I love when biopics or anything allude that there's like a second side to the story.
Yeah.
There's a great moment where they're doing the interview, and they're talking about Townes Van Zandt is talking about how he recorded the live album. He's so happy he did it, and then the interviewer goes like, thank God he had people like you in your life, and then the other guy just kind of like gets up and walks out.
Mhm.
And I don't know what you can interpret that in many ways, but I really took that as it being like there were maybe he should have had better people in his life or something like that.
Yeah.
There's different ways that you could look at the story.
This is not the
Yeah.
one story, and that
Sure.
goes back to what he was saying. And I actually think that's how he got to talking about what's
Yeah.
real and what's not at the Q&A. Somebody asked a question about that moment in particular,
Mhm.
and yeah, I agree with you on that. It's
Mhm.
very, very important to it, and I think that's such a great moment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it is.
To talk about stuff that I wasn't crazy on, or that should just some short little cons on the movie.
Well, I do want to mention that this is not
Yeah.
a perfect movie.
Oh,
and,
no.
and I think it's
Yeah.
very important to note that this is one of my favorite movies of the year. It's more flawed than many of the movies
Yeah.
I've seen this year, and I like that despite the flaws.
Oh,
Like this
yeah.
is the
Mhm.
kind of movie that really sticks with me despite many of the problems with
Mhm.
it, and there are problems.
Yeah. But I think just my main gripe with it is just the running time. I think
Yeah.
it runs a little too long at like a little over 2 hours, which I think maybe like bring it down to like hour 45. I think it would be
Mhm.
like perfect runtime. I just felt a little bit of just kind of the long kind of dragging a little bit, but just it wasn't bad.
I'm interested in that's the big flaw you bring up because in the car on the way home, because we went to this together, we drove back home together.
Mhm.
You were much more lukewarm about the movie than I was.
Yeah.
But my problems now, this far out, are actually bigger than yours, which is interesting because I have a big problem with the second act of this, or the second
Yeah.
half of this movie, where I do feel like it loses
Mhm.
a lot of what it brings in the
Yeah.
first half. It becomes a little more straightforward. It loses a lot of the naturalism. It becomes very moody, and I don't know if that works as well.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is I like it despite
Yeah.
what happens,
No.
despite the way it goes.
Yeah, my thoughts have changed like dramatically, like over
Interesting.
like since I last saw it. Yeah, because I remember I was telling you like how I liked the second half a little bit more.
That's right,
But-
and
but-
we were so different on that.
Yeah, but I think now after looking at it, I still thought the first act was fine. Like I thought it was really good. But I think now I've switched a little bit to where I like the first half more. Like it's just like
Interesting.
it's kind of it works just every kind of way that it was just like it makes me think a lot. But yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Well, what about you?
Were
Did
there
you-
any particular scenes like in the second act that like threw you off, or that you're like I didn't want in there?
I don't know if there was anything. I will say the moment where it broke off for me is the moment that after they've been in Austin for a while, they travel and they end up traveling to Chicago.
Yeah.
And it's about 10 minutes spent in Chicago, I believe, and that was the moment that I think what happens in Chicago is slower and not so. It's not as impactful.
Mhm.
Even though there's a great moment, that's the moment where "If I Could Only Fly," which might be the best Blaze Foley song he's
Yeah.
played.
Yeah.
That was where it lost me a little bit, and it didn't. After that, there was nothing bad, but
Yeah.
it didn't recover what it
See,
had.
I think for me, I really liked that segment because I think for the most part I was caught up in the movie and kind of like the fantasy of it. And when those slower moments, especially when he's at the blues bar and it's very slow and he's playing to a crowd that doesn't like him, that doesn't care about him, I think that moment is where like there were some of the problems that Blaze Foley had really like. I think that somber moment and those moments that kind of played and were not as like striking and not as fast going were really like they really worked for me. And I think that by the time the third act picked up, it was like it seemed like it flowed naturally to me.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's really interesting to me that
Yeah.
both of you seem to have fewer flaws than I did, but I love this movie
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
passion.
Mm.
Wow.
And I think it is partially too because I tend to like when I watch movies get really invested in the characters and really like to see what
Yeah.
happens, and I don't mind when the characters kind of get through a smog or like there's like a longer span that he just holds in there in a moment or something like that. And I
Yeah.
think I do think that in a lot of ways that Ben Dickey's character was really a main reason why like after I left that movie I was like I'd have a beer with that guy. I'm like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it might have cluttered my critical eye.
Oh, I can understand.
Yeah.
Well, I certainly had that in the first half for sure. In the second half, I say this as if I thought it was bad. I don't think it's bad.
Yeah.
I think it's really well done still, and I think especially the last maybe 20 minutes are exceptionally well done. Although I'd agree with you on the runtime, where it does drag a little bit.
Yeah.
Even at the end, it does drag a little bit.
Yeah.
And the last scene is interesting. There's something about it that I like and something about it that I don't.
Yeah,
I do think that they could have. There was an earlier point at that end that they could have cut.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I was not a huge fan of the last it's maybe because it's been done so many times, like death is, like the kind of like question of an ending.
Yeah.
You know, the gravekeeper comes by and walks away. And
Yeah.
I just remember I was kind of bored because after that, when the movie came out, everyone's like, "What did that mean?" It's like,
Yeah.
it didn't really work as well because everything else was so, like seemed like a perfect sentence, and at the end it was like, I don't know. It seemed like it was trying to do something.
Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
really sure.
The area in the film where at the very end where it's shown his death, and that whole sequence that's played out a little bit, and then it kind of is like a bridge to the ending a little bit, like a little bit after that. I thought that could have been done a different way than it was done, or I think it just could have been done a better way.
I liked what they did. Because they start the credits early in that.
Yes.
And that was really interesting. I thought they were going to do the whole thing.
Yeah.
To the point, and I think that would have actually been a really like interesting artistic decision to do.
Yeah.
Because it already puts your mind in, like I said, the movie's over,
Mm-hmm.
kind of, and things are coming over. I don't know. I there was something about that they stopped doing the credits and they stopped kind of doing that made it really not. Like I was unsettled with myself. Like, is the movie over?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
I understand if you wanted to like connect it to kind of like the liquid narrative a little bit,
Yeah.
like bring it back to like that dreamlike feel a little bit where it just kind of keeps on going. But I mean, yeah, I think they should have just kind of cut the credits,
Yeah.
but it's all good.
Well, then this is the last thing I want to ask. What do you guys think about the death sequence? Because it is not done the way that I thought it would be done.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
going in,
Yeah.
I knew about the death, I knew the details. I
Yeah.
thought that would be a very big focal point, but it's not. It's not. It happens, I guess, after what you'd call the climax.
Yeah, I feel like it comes and goes, and it kind of is a little too quick.
But I kind of like that it comes and goes.
I loved because I was so anytime I see my biggest gripe about biopics is death scenes because they're just hard to do.
Yeah.
They're
And
very
they're hard to do
sentimental
right.
and
Yeah,
very-
they're very like and I think that the way that whole situation worked, I feel like they did it pretty fucking flawlessly.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying I think I would have done it maybe a little bit of a different way. It still works for the movie. Like every gripe that I come up with, like other than the running time, maybe like it's easily kind of like parred with it works with the movie. Like I totally understand. Like I mean it does. It kind of works. So it's kind of hard. Yeah.
What I like about it is that it happens very suddenly, and it's
Yeah.
and it is almost an afterthought, but it's very, and even the way it's framed, you don't see the shot.
Yeah.
You see a flash from it, but you don't actually see it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's him stumbling out onto the street, and there's something about that I really appreciate.
It's a hard movie because I wish I had more things to say critically about it, and I wish I had but there's something about the way it flowed that as opposed to many movies I've seen, I usually base my critiques on if I'm yanked out of it. And very few times was I yanked out of that movie, which I think what really comes to the tea of what my appreciation of it was.
I think we can end this by saying that we all very much like the movie.
Yeah.
I love this movie, and you should see it while you can, especially if you're here in Nashville. There are great opportunities to see it. And I guess the question I'll ask, I'll wrap this up, is who would you recommend this movie for?
I'd say just off the tee. I think if you are a punk rocker, and if you like those types of characters, and you like and you have affinity, or if you like stories of like rebellion or stories of people, doing things on their own kind of thing, I think you'd really appreciate this.
Yeah, like Rogue One.
Like Rogue One, yeah.
Exactly.
The Rebel Alliance.
Yeah, Rebellion.
But yeah, I will say we definitely have some punks that watch the show, and this. If you don't like country music, this is the artist that you will like.
Yeah,
for sure.
Sure.
So I think on that note, we can go over to our second topic today.
Yeah.
And I will bounce it over to you.
Sweet. Okay, so since TIFF literally like just ended, Toronto International Film Festival, it's kind of like the kickstart event for
it's
the
TIFF
award
and
season.
Venice, and for those who don't know, those are the two where we kind of get an idea of what Oscar season's going to look like. That's where the movies have premiered for the first time, and now they're going to run the circuit and they're going to get released, and we're going to see what people think of them.
Absolutely. So yeah, there's a lot of movies that released with critical acclaim at both festivals, and I just thought we should touch up on some of them, what we're all excited for. So,
and first I want to note that we've done the Oscar thing before, and we've been very clear that we don't like the Oscars, and we're very ambivalent. But we like TIFF and we like Venice. We like all of this very much because we like the festival atmosphere. And you've been to TIFF.
I've been to Toronto. I went last year in 2017. It was best trip I've ever been to, best time I've ever had in my life. Like, as a film fan, like, it's just a must.
See, yeah, I've only been in Park City before they did Sundance, and that was really weird. That's really surreal.
Yeah, it's just film festivals in general, just the big ones, are so surreal.
And we're going to try and do a group trip next year to TIFF, so look out for that content this time next year.
We'll have full coverage.
Yeah. So yeah, what are you excited for?
The movie I am most excited for is the new Claire Denis movie, which is High Life, and it is. She's already had one movie come out this year. It might have come out last year and just been released here, but it's Let the Sun Shine In, which my review is actually up. It's on the site. It's one of the first ones I reviewed, and I loved that movie. I love Claire Denis. I love White Material.
I need to see that movie. Juliette Binoche is probably one of my favorite actresses. Yeah.
She's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is she in High Life?
Oh, she is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is too.
It's her and Robert Pattinson.
Yeah.
And it's a science fiction movie, and I've not seen any more material about it, anything other than tweets and what it is. I'm excited for it just on the basis of who directed it and who's involved in it. Yeah. Because I love, as I already said, I love Claire Denis. I'm very much looking forward to that. Yeah, that's obvious. That's definitely on my radar. I think the one there's obviously a lot that I'm really excited for. I'd say like the first, and this is just for like any movies coming out in the next several months, but definitely House That Jack Built is on the top of my list.
Damn.
Lars von Trier is one of my favorite directors of all time. One of the most controversial filmmakers of all time. This is a movie that got booed and just destroyed at Cannes. But also, there was a standing ovation. Yeah, exactly. Right after. Yeah, this is
like the best, man. Absolutely. Anything where it splits the crowd in half is
it's perfect. It's
half the audience walked out, and the other half stayed and loved it.
Walkouts were like totally expected for this movie. But,
and most people, I'm sure Lars von Trier knows that that's pretty good fucking press. Like,
I'm sure he's used to it.
It's movies,
Oh, pretty much, yeah. But no, from Breaking the Waves, like his kind of later '90s stuff, to Dogville, early 2000s, and then he had the Depression trilogy with Antichrist, Melancholy, and then Nymphomaniac. Just all of his films for me just hit out of the park for me, and it's just like he's one of the most unique directors working, I think, and just really, really interested to check out this next movie. I've heard it's fantastic from people who love his work, so I'm very happy to see it soon. So.
I don't know if I'm going to go to this movie.
Really?
I actually wrote a column about it when the Cannes thing came up. You can read that too, but I've heard so much about it, and in doing that, I read so much about what happens in it and what it's about, that I don't know if I want to see it. Yeah. I'm not sure. And the other disclaimer is I've never seen a Lars von Trier film, but that'll change. I know you'll make that change.
Yeah, it's about to say I'm about to pull out like 5 of them just to watch them one day. But yeah.
But both of you are excited for that, though.
And kind of piggybacking off of Moonlight, Barry Jenkins is bringing If Beale Street Can Talk.
There's another movie that I'm very excited. I think both of us are very excited for. It's based on a James Baldwin play, and we both like Barry Jenkins a lot. Have you seen Moonlight?
Nope.
Moonlight's one of my
film show, and I haven't seen Moonlight.
I absolutely love Moonlight. It's
I like Moonlight. I don't think I love it.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan, but I really love who Barry Jenkins is and what he brings, the kind of perspective he brings.
His style is insanely good.
Yes, he has a wonderful style. Yeah. I just did not. I'm not going to say much about Moonlight because it's hard to describe what I feel about that movie.
Yeah, there's not much wrong with it.
Yeah. But I'm very. It's going to be interesting to see because he certainly has a higher budget for if Beale Street could talk.
Yeah.
And that's going to be interesting. And early reviews have been very good.
Fantastic, yeah.
But then again, most movies that premiere at TIFF don't get bad reviews. That's kind of what you have.
Yeah.
You do. There's a degree when film festivals happen of you kind of have to take things with a grain of salt, unless it's Cannes, where that's just a free for all.
But I mean, it speaks to the festival, the Toronto National Film Festival,
That's
and like
true.
how many good films they bring out. Because last year they had Shape of Water, they had Florida Project, they had Disaster Artist, just a ton of great movies. Killing of a Sacred Deer. Like, there's a handful, just more than a handful of just movies that you can pick from that, a lot of them are, quality stuff. So,
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, we'll be most likely reviewing some of those.
Yeah,
movies
hopefully
that we just
we'll
talked
talk about them. And
in
let's
the
talk.
future.
So that's TIFF. That's the TIFF movies.
Yeah.
What are some movies that did not premiere at TIFF that were?
House That Jack Built.
That's
it
right.
Didn't
That was a
premiere
con
TIFF,
premiere.
but it was just I was just trying to find other movies, in the next several months. But
what are we can rifle off some others that we.
Yeah.
I know you're excited for Roma, and I'm very interested in that too.
Absolutely.
I don't know anything about it, but I like
just Cuarón's name.
Yes.
Just like he's made some
That's
of the
enough
best
for me.
films of this century.
E Tu Mama Tambien is enough.
And
I will
Children of
watch. Yes.
Yeah, just
anything
amazing.
he makes.
I'm really excited for Climax, the new
Gaspar
Noé movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard about this.
It's kind of like a horror dance party.
I'm gonna be
kinda
honest.
like-
The synopsis really sold me more than the trailer did.
Yeah,
But that's the same. That was the same with Enter the
yeah.
Void for me. I don't think that the trailer really sold me in that.
The teaser trailer for Climax just doesn't give away
Yeah.
much. It's just like
Yeah.
quick cuts and just like
Yeah.
mayhem just happening.
I wish I just read the idea because the idea is so freaking
Oh, it's so
insane.
good.
Yeah.
I know it definitely. I think it went to TIFF, but it's just another movie. I think A24 picked it up.
Oh.
So yeah, they picked up them picking up Gaspar Noé movies. I find really interesting. But no, I've heard it. I've heard great things from it. I've heard it's a really kind of crazed, kind of fun.
And you will not see any articles that are not about penises after he does it,
yeah.
because that's every time he comes out with the movie, you're like, why'd you have to put the penis in there? It's like,
Come on, man. Why not?
yeah,
Gaspar Noé penis just blends right together.
That's what you'll see on the internet when that movie comes
I for one embrace it.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap up here by let's just list off the other movie. 'Cause I'm Madeline's Madeline is one I'm very much looking forward to. What are some other ones?
Some other ones we didn't mention. Steve McQueen's new film Widows, who has a stacked cast, and Steve McQueen, one of my favorite modern directors right now working today.
There's Shoplifters.
Yeah, Shoplifters.
That's that won the highest prize at Cannes.
Also, if you're into weird stuff, check out. There's a trailer up on Bombstrap on YouTube for this movie called Journey to the Center of Healing, and it is the most whacked out thing ever. Be prepared for that because I have no idea what that's going to be, but you need to watch the trailer.
Watch the trailer and you'll know if it's for you.
Yeah.
It's Suspiria, where I think.
Oh yeah, we didn't even mention that.
Right, another remake.
Stoked for that. That's up at the top of my list. I can't believe we didn't mention that.
Right.
But yeah, that's
gonna be interesting.
I want to see that so badly. 2.5 hour long Luca Guadagnino horror movie.
Are they gonna redo the soundtrack to be like proggy like the original?
Yeah, and Tom York's doing it.
Oh shit!
Yeah, Tom York's doing the
Interesting.
soundtrack for it, and I've heard it's a great.
Always
it's a great
for Tom
score.
York.
Yeah, but yeah, Suspiria's up there for me as well.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.
Howdy. Wagon wheel.
Peace out.
Spittoon.
If you don't subscribe to this podcast, I'm going to ride my horse down to your house, and I'm going to force you to subscribe.
I'll make you eat from a slop in my farmhouse.
Yeehaw!
I literally have plates full of that shit.
Get out of my grand old opry with your unsubscribing ass.
You're unsubscribing asshole.
You're unsubscribing bumhole.
You ain't never subscribing. You ain't never will.
You're not allowed at the rhyming no more.
You won't even thumbs up this video, you fucking
You pussy.
cowgirl.
You Yankee.
You Yankee.
Roll Tide!